And I now give the floor to the representative of Russian Federation.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Russian Federation abstained in the vote on the draft put forward by the co-sponsor for the one sole purpose not to block the cross-border assistance to Syrians in Idlib, the only province that is still really in need of such kind of deliveries of assistance. I'd like to remind you that right from the outset, we said that we were committed to that aim because of this, we did not abstain to having the Turkish crossing points. And it's still not clear as to why several delegations over this entire period categorically refused to negotiate on our alternative draft. What was the substantive problem with that? We still have not heard any substantive reasons. Essentially, we have used that same scheme. We say frequently that humanitarian assistance must remain within the context of the humanitarian focus. We continue to have political games around humanitarian assistance nonetheless. It's very dangerous and cynical, furthermore, because the different figures have actually been the people who live in Idlib. They're the key players, the exchange figures. And for political purposes, our colleagues are actually prepared to risk their well-being. The issue is about the concern of the people in Idlib, as has been long declared in other meetings. Other people have to respond for that. And now, temporarily, we'd like to talk about what exactly is this resolution that we have just voted on, because somebody might have questions about this. Well, the document extends the mandate for a 6-month period and just 4 crossing points coming from Turkey into Idlib. And the Jordan Ramtha has not been used since July 2018. The Iraq one has not been used since last year. And in the northeast, there are deliveries of humanitarian assistance through the Syrian-controlled territories. That is a fact, is reflected in the Secretary General's report, number 49, 2019-49. And this is something that, however, people prefer to remain silent on. To my Estonian colleague, I would like to say that it is not the task of Russia to find reliable ways of delivering aid to the people in Syria. It is the aim of the UN in coordination with the Syrian authorities, and they should long ago have been involved in the question of providing delivery to, and they must, precisely must, in line with the guiding principles of humanitarian assistance, they must do that in conjunction with the Syrian authorities on their request and with their consent. And they need to do that. They will have to do that. The resolution clearly stipulates that it is a temporary urgent measure seeking to provide assistance to those people who have not yet been able to get the appropriate aid other ways. So there is monitoring included of the delivery of assistance to those people. Monitoring, it is our firm belief, is never something that has been successful until the UN have full access to the area of operations. And that is not what we're saying. But it's the key point of 2165, that resolution that over the past 5 years has not been upheld. But for some reason, most people prefer not to talk about that. That issue is circumvented in the appropriate reports of the Secretary General as well. We consider that that is not right. And since it talks about it in the resolution, we very much want to look at the information as to what was done to ensure direct access to the UN, to the area of operations, both publicly and in terms of contacts with the Idlib groups represented in Idlib. The second main aim in the near future is to have transport means and checking them that are used in the delivery of humanitarian assistance. And how symbolic that is, well, that's not important. But this must differ from commercial traffic and other types of traffic. First of all, that is a primary security basis in a situation of armed conflict. Secondly, it is something that is significant for the transparency of the operations. And thirdly, it is important in terms of a measure to boost confidence and trust. This is something that has just been said the Syrians need to establish, the Syrian authorities, with the Syrian authorities. We're convinced that in establishing an atmosphere of acceptance and establishing effective work in the country, without doing so, the different organizations are not going to be effective in the country. And that is not our blush. That is not what we're just saying. It is not just a capricious thing we're saying, but it is something that's clearly stipulated in the GA resolution on humanitarian assistance. This is something that establishes a key role in initiating and coordinating humanitarian assistance, namely with the authorities. And that needs to be recalled all the time when we talk about the issue of humanitarian assistance. This is a fundamental issue. And we welcome the fact that the resolution has a reference to the guiding principles of humanitarian activities contained in 46.182. Thus, once again, we established a number of problems with this mechanism, but we haven't provided any form of resolution for these issues yet in the near future. But we do hope that this trend will be something we can overcome. Otherwise, we will encounter this same number of problems when we review this particular issue in the summer. A solution to this is the need to come back to providing humanitarian assistance unfailingly based on the guiding principles. So in other words, with the consent of the authority and government of the recipient and host country. Thank you very much.
I thank the representatives of Russian Federation for his statement.